And those different perspectives, I always want you to honor those perspectives, right? I always want you to value those, even if you disagree with them. There was a time, I remember back in 2007, I had to go, well, I didn't have to, but I do a lot of genealogy in terms of my family tree and just history in general, helping other people out as well. So I do a bunch of research. So I remember I had an opportunity to work in Glen Allen, Richmond, Virginia. And being in Virginia, my family, I have a whole segment of family that's from Virginia, but they're from Southern Virginia, kind of a place called Broadnax, Brunswick County, Mecklenburg County. Probably the biggest city closest to there is South Hill. It's about 10 miles north of North Carolina. Okay. And it gave me an opportunity to really go do some real research, like go to courthouses and go really look through things and go find some information, right? And so I actually found one of my great, 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 great grandparents. Okay? And I couldn't find it in 1870 because, 1860s, emancipation. So we're not in the 1860s census because a lot of us were slaves. At least my folks were slaves, right? And so the 1870 census is the first one where I could maybe touch them a little bit. But the thing is that my great, 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 great grandmother wasn't there. Okay? And I had this grandfather pretty much that had a bunch of kids, and no wife. And that's a bit strange, right? All these kids and no wife. But luckily for me, I found the record of him being a slave, at least his son being born as a slave. And with his son being born as a slave, I was able to learn who his mother was. And by learning who his mother was, I learned the last name. Now, by learning that last name, I was able to identify the family that she was associated with. And I actually reached out to the family that she was associated with. And fortunately for me, the actual person was the head of the genealogical society. So she had a tremendous amount of information. And the one thing that I gotta tell you is when I walked to meet her, I had to have a certain level of respect. And the reason why I had that respect is because she has the right to be proud of her family, like I have the right to be proud of my family, right? But her family, at least, well, let's put a family to the side because we know who the slave owner was. But think about this. I seen on a wall just a nice little plaque, right? Because she's a very proud member of the Daughters of the Confederacy. Okay, I think that's how you pronounce their names, right? They got some books that I'm going to read. I'm going to read their books because I would actually learn a lot if I read their books. But I didn't think about that until I got some advice from one of my mentors. But these are the folks that say, hey, you got to have a direct connection. Somebody who more than likely served or died, something like that, in the Civil War on the Confederate side. And she obviously had one of those kind of relationships. Okay, and specifically, they were fighting to keep the institution of slavery. Now, we have this thing where we like to whitewash history, forget history. We like to do those kind of things, right? But look, they put it in their documents. So if you just go read their documents, it'll tell you that it was all about slavery and them keeping their institution. So, okay, I get it, no problem. But here's the connection, right? Those Daughters of the Confederacy are the same people that funded things like Stone Mountain. Stone Mountain, Georgia, the big old carved thing, right? They funded many of these Confederate statues. Definitely not all of them, right? But you'll find that there's many that are funded by them in some kind of way, right? These are the same statues that a lot of people are pulling down in today's world, right? It's like, how do you lose a war and it don't look like you lost? That being said, there's a whole conversation we need to have about that. Okay, but that's another time. This time, it's all about the hashtag.